as a kid growing up. What do you to have Scott now be a guy that's one of your leaders on that defensive line and a key guy, that you're going to expect from this season? How do you look at Scott's development and just what he means to the team?
Well, he can be an inspiration to all of us from the standpoint of being able to overcome adversity, things that happen, to us in the course of our lives, in particular for him, some of the things that he's had to endure and overcome, and knowing not only knowing him and being a part of his recruiting process, but his brothers as well. And so knowing his family, knowing the situation is inspiring to all of us, and him coming to college, and he's made strides. We see the gains on the field, right? That's what everybody sees. But I can tell you this, what he's become as a student and how the habits he's created and how organized he is, and the role model, not only on the field that he's become for his teammates, but what he's doing in the classroom as well compared to when he got here. And we love Scott, and sky's the limit for Scott, and he's going to do really, really good things on and off the field.
Thanks, Andy.
Before we get moving anymore, though, I'd just like to say we got a big game tonight down there where you're at, BJ. So good luck to Coach Rice and our Boise State Broncos tonight. We're excited to see them play. That's fun. Wish we can be down there with them. And I know there's going to be some former Broncos in the house down there watching and supporting that are down in the Dallas area tonight. So go Broncos.
Andy, in terms of this offense, we've had a chance to talk to a couple of the players and certainly a chance to talk to a couple of the assistant coaches. And there's a lot of buzz about this new offense. And we're all kind of eager to learn a little bit more of it. We're all eager to see it. How do you see it? What have you seen so far in these spring practices with this new offense?
Well, there's a lot of moving parts to it. I'll say that. So that's the exciting thing. It is very far from stagnant. It's fast, different tempos, being able to use different personnels, being able to highlight tight ends, wide receivers, tailbacks. If you're involved on that side of the ball, I mean, you better be ready, because that ball gets shared a whole lot through all the position groups. Obviously, the quarterback's operation is pivotal, as it is in every offense, but even much more so with this offense. The quarterbacks control quite a bit, especially with the protections in the fronts, and that's something new for them, which is exciting. They get to grow and work with the O-line, and our quarterback center relationships are huge within this offense, and how they work together in the pre-snap, and so it's fun to see those guys come together.
Sounds like there's a lot of dependable depth. That's the phrase you guys like to use on both sides of the lines, offensive line and defensive line. We know that there's a lot of starters back and a lot of potential, a lot of names. Well, you coaches throw out the vibe or the cliche all the time that, games are won and lost in the trenches. Are you starting to get the vibe that both sides of your offensive and defensive lines is going to be special this year?
We are definitely progressing in those areas, and we put a premium on that, Mike. That's always going to be championship teams. They're going to be good up front, and that's a pivotal point for us to continue to grow. Not only the guys that have had a ton of experience and being able to get them used to the new offense, but even more so developing them individually and building off of the 2 months of training, the way they're moving, their explosiveness, and now being able to put that into play on the field. And obviously we have a really good D-line, and seeing those guys go up against each other, whether it be in group drills, controlled settings where it's more one-on-ones, and carrying that over into group settings where it's a half-line run into the team periods, and seeing how we're progressing and seeing how hard we play after the snap. That's an emphasis that we're growing. The expectation that the D-line is going to turn and pursue on every snap to wherever that ball's at, and the expectation that the O-line is going to chase the ball and continue in trying to finish blocks down the field and spring ball carriers loose, and building that mentality within those groups is important as well.
Thoughts on fans for the spring game up to 6,300, and more importantly, well, not more importantly, I'm also just as curious, have you determined any kind of a spring game format yet?
We have one. You know what, Mike? We have one laid out right now, but as you know, as it goes through spring ball and we got to make sure that we can, whether we'll divide the team up into two teams or offense versus defense, really predicates on where we're at roster wise and who's available for that. But we will have it as close to a full game structure as possible with 4 quarters. In the second half, the quarters may be a little bit shorter than what they are normally. We will have a halftime. That's exciting to be able to share a little bit of the new experience that it's going to be in Albertson Stadium and enjoy that with the fans. So we're really looking forward to that. Obviously, we got a lot of preparation to continue doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jay Tust.
What's up, Andy? How we doing?
Good, bro. How you doing, man?
I'm good, thanks. Andy, last time we talked with you, we asked you about the quarterback competition. Today, we've already asked you about the quarterback competition. As a guy with a defensive background, how kind of new is this, and how much are you in communication with what is going on at that competition?
I love it. It's fun. The new perspective. I spend as much time in the offensive staff meetings learning the new offense, the operation, how guys are doing. Obviously, I love being out there on the field with those guys, standing in the backfield and seeing how they move in the pre-snap, and really looking to help in any way, which is usually stay out of the way. But it's fun being able to go down there and watch their drills and seeing their development. What Coach Plow is doing with that group is unbelievable. And here's the biggest thing that you'll see is how tight they're coming together as a group. Yes, they are competing. There is only one quarterback on the field at a time, but how they're growing together and helping each other, that's the thing that this makes everybody excited, as well as myself, is to be able to see that.
Having a few spring practices under your belt as a head coach, how's the rhythm? How's the flow at practice going? And have you made any little adjustments or modifications so far?
You know what? I get really antsy during individual because that used to be one of my favorite times, being able to teach fundamentals, teach techniques, create an edge, create a mentality that is going to then take over when you get to compete against someone else. So right now, that's the biggest difference for me. Once the group periods, the special teams would jump in, and the team periods, coaching the start and the finish, a lot of that stuff is very similar to what it's been. But the individual part, at least for me, is the difference. I love being able to coach the special teams. That's really fun. You get to be around all the players, offense, defense, obviously, and the specialists all at once. We've been able to get some really good work in, and we feel like the progression we're making right now, if we can have the consistency within what we're doing, that we're going to like where we're at coming out of spring ball.
One more, and you've made so much about the brotherhood at Boise State, and following along on social media, we've seen, I feel like, more alumni back in town this year. DeMarcus Lawrence, Cedric Wilson, Cy Alexander Madison was over at the facility the other day. How much do those guys mean to you, and what is your effort to make sure that they stay connected with the program? Because it clearly seems like one's being made.
No question. I mean, that's natural. That's we're all tied together here, and it's a joy to see those guys. It's a joy, we're fortunate, they're able to, if they bring their kids with them too, that they now have. That's exciting to help these guys that were once student athletes here, just like myself, and now to be able to see them come back, and if they have their sons or daughters with them, and to be able to see them in their new role of being a father, and that's fun. That's a joy in it. And for our players, we obviously got to keep everybody socially distanced, and the guests that do come, the former alumni, is really when they are in town, who's been the only ones that have been able to come. We keep them off to the side, but I'll tell you what, those players play a little harder too when they know their big brothers are there watching. There's a certain standard and expectation that needs to be withheld. So that little extra motivation is always nice, but it's fun to see all those guys. And as we work our way out of this pandemic, it's only going to get better. I mean, we want anyone and everyone in terms of our brotherhood to be able to come and watch practice, have an impact on the current Broncos, and help us keep growing these young men.
Ron, Beeler, and Will. So, Coach, you guys are through 5 practices. What would you say you guys have accomplished so far, and what do you want to accomplish in the next 10?
Learning to practice with a certain tempo, how we start, how we play in the pre-snap, how we play in the post-snap, how we finish. We're establishing those habits. We're establishing the habits of how we move from drill to drill, because it all goes together. How we practice very, very relentlessly together, but we keep each other's best interests. So how we work to keep each other up off the ground, how we compete against each other, but how we take care of each other on the practice field. There's an art to doing that. And we just don't jump in and teach the schemes. We got to teach each other how to practice and how to work together. And that's a huge emphasis for us. And it starts with us coaches. And the coaches have done a tremendous job working with each other on the field, as we're a new staff. And some of the drills are new. The layout of practice is new. It's different than what it's been here at Boise State. And so that's the exciting part for me, is we will grow faster the more organized we are, and the more we work together. And the coaches have done an unbelievable job, and that's led into the players as well.
And you've preached a lot about developing defensive depth at every position this year, but is that maybe more important in the trenches on the defensive line, where those guys are taking contact and taking punishment every play?
It is always, that's the most important part, is up front on both sides, the O-line and the D-line. It's a constant work in progress. You can never have enough. And we're very excited now. Coach Keene, obviously coaching the O-line, the strides already that we're seeing, the progress, the development, the ability of our guys as we've progressed on to be able to play with great knee bend and body control, be able to engage and finish and stay on blocks and finish and be able to move up to the next level. It's really exciting to see. The progress is very visible on the film and on the field. And up front, on the other side of the ball with the D-line, just the physicality and the ability of our D-line to move is impressive.
And that D-line took some punishment last year. I'm curious about the health of some guys. Scale had a bump ankle last season. Where is he health-wise? Is he a full go in practice?
He's a full go. He looks great moving around. Very impressive. Very impressive. Scale is moving around. He is improved, developed, in his burst and his quickness is elite.
And Herbert Gums and Keegan Freeborn both had season-ending injuries last year. Where are they in their rehab? Do you expect to have them this spring or this fall?
So they are very much so, and even so, ahead of schedule in terms of the rehab, but they're not going to get much done this fall.
And just to confirm, you also mentioned that Dimitri was ahead of his schedule as well, right?
Yeah, he is. D-Wash is doing great.
Do you think he'll be able to participate this spring, or will
he's not going to do
much?
He's not going to do much this spring.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach.
Coach, how are you doing today?
Awesome. How are you?
From Texas.
I was going to say, you getting ready for the game? You ready to go?
Very much so. Looking forward.
You look like you got your game time suit on already.
I do. I'm ready to go. Everybody talks about the quarterback. So give me a job description. If you were going to, put a job description together, what do you want out of your quarterback? And then as you go through spring and you go through fall camp, boxes that are going to tick off that are going to decide what you look for in a quarterback and who eventually you pick.
Well, number one, their engagement in the players around them off the field. We can't lead in this facility or on the field until we have those relationships off the field. How we represent ourselves, how we carry each other, how we build confidence within others off the field is everything. Once we get inside the facility, how we operate within the meeting room and our ability to retain knowledge, be able to take that from the meeting room to the field, and then obviously the work ethic. The work ethic of not only on the field, but in the weight room, in the training room. Are we developing? Are we holding ourselves to a high standard? And let's bring some people with us now, right? And so we've got to be able to bring those bonds together and create that chemistry so that when the lights come on, the reps of execution at practice in terms of the certain schemes and all that stuff, it's going to come together because the chemistry we have and the ability to lead in tough situations is going to carry us. And that's what we're looking for as guys that are able to build those relationships to be able to lead and through reps with what Coach Plow does and how he teaches, they're going to be able to execute. but that's the bottom line. The execution in tough situations. You got to be a tough guy that has good relationships.
Now, a lot has been made of Coach Plow and talking about 100 and, coming the valley of the shred, et cetera. If you look at it from a defensive coordinator spot, as he explains and is going through what he wants to do on the offensive side of the ball, what do you think are going to be the biggest challenges for defenses facing you guys, looking at it from your defensive side?
Well, I mean, again, there's some moving parts, and I think what we do a really good job of what we're working to do is keep the defense on their heels. I think there's going to have to be some certain level of simplicity on the defensive side to be able to keep up with the moving parts and without giving up too much. I mean, it's defenses are going to have to be simple, because they're not going to be able to keep up. At least it's going to be really difficult for them to keep up. It is for ours. It is for our defense. So,
and lastly here, you had 5 practices. Is there anything that stuck out at you in 5 practices that would have you saying, "Wow, this is better than I thought it was going to be"?
Our team speed. Our team speed through the training sessions leading up. It's especially at the wide receiver position. We got some length in the secondary, and they can run. The speed, the ability to change direction, and some of the bigs that we were talking about. Some of the old linemen, they're moving really, really well, and being able to bend and move in open space and have body control, right? For a big old offensive lineman, that's what you want to be able to see. Obviously, they got to be able to win at the point of attack and move people off the line of scrimmage, but they got to be able to move in space and have body control. In the D-line, some of the interior guys, the way they're moving for their size and length is pretty impressive. So we're at a good starting point. We're not where we need to be by any means, but we're at a really good starting point, and we'll keep pushing forward with the development.
Thanks, Coach.
Hey, Andy, when we were talking with Hank earlier this week, we asked him about CT and Octavius, and he was raving about them, and he said, just wait and see. What have you seen out of those two so far?
I mean, I would echo the same thing, as well as another handful of wide receivers. We're very fortunate. We do got some dependable depth going right there, and we're continuing to build that now because, they can fly, and there's a whole host of them. And so that's really fun for the quarterbacks, obviously, too, because you run with the first group or the second group, and the wide receivers you got out there, it's pretty impressive. So those guys, number one, from how they work when they get on the field is what you would expect from guys that have been in this program for a while. Not only that, but how they've got their own personal goals in terms of growth as men. And it's not just off the field, but it's on the field, how they help lead. And that's attributed to Coach Miller, too, and the type of person he is and what he puts as a priority to help his room grow. And so we're very excited about the direction we're going, not only with those two guys, but that group in general.
Regarding your cornerbacks, what stood out to you about that position group?
Yeah, so, Markel is not going to be doing a whole lot this spring. So we got some young guys, getting some reps, or some guys that necessarily haven't got a lot of time on the field, this past season or the previous. And so it's really good opportunity for those guys to learn and grow. And with what Jerron is doing and Coach Ione in the secondary, and the reps they are getting right now are going to pay off 10 times when we hit the fall. And so we're really excited what we're seeing there. And it's a challenge for them every day. We just talked about the wide receiver core, right? It is very good competition, but that's what breeds excellence, is competition every single day at practice. And we come to practice every single day knowing what the standard is, what the expectation, and how we're going to compete, and iron sharpens iron.
One of the few guys when you got back to campus a couple of months ago that you probably didn't recognize was Brock Miller. Yeah. Curious, what are your impressions of Brock, and what can he provide for your defense?
Yeah, so Brock being able to come back this year and not having a previous relationship on the field with Brock and those things, it's been fun to see him grow and develop with Coach Danielson, obviously being the inside linebacker coach now. and what he's learning and how he's operating. A big standpoint, much like the quarterbacks, is a position of leadership. Is an inside linebacker in this defense, there is a lot of communication, and that starts with leadership, being able to lead off the field so you can lead on the field, and seeing him grow through that, being that we were in a pandemic last year. And for a lot of these guys, even for guys like, Hank or Jack, just being away from the team and not having the opportunity to do that stuff last year. That's why we're putting such a big emphasis on it. And it's much so the same for Brock and the rest of the linebackers, but he's done a nice job. He is explosive. He can run around. He is sideline to sideline. So we're excited for him to continue to improve.
Thanks, Andy.
Yep. Good. Have a good one, bro.
All right, we'll go Corinne, and then we'll go Johnny Mallory.
Hey, Coach. Corinne McGrath from the east side of the state where you have a lot of fans. Obviously, you've been a player. You've been a coach. Is there anything going into spring training and then just starting this program under you that you don't want to warn or don't want to imply?
I'm sorry, Corinne, you were breaking up at the end there. Can you say it again?
Yeah. You've been a player, you've been a coach. Is there anything that you've seen other coaches do or other programs do that you don't want to imply to your players going in as the starting head coach here?
Well, there's been a lot learned, through the course of the years, and, every day, every week we learn here. And the biggest thing is we're focusing on is what we need to do. And that is create an environment that we all want to be a part of. Everybody wants to drop that culture word, and it almost makes me cringe anymore because it's like people swiping a credit card they don't have to pay back. And that's not reality. And so like everybody wants to just culture this and culture that. Well, it starts with the environment you create and that you live in and that a family agrees upon. And so for us, we've been really focusing on that and the habits that it takes to grow our environment every single day, because it's not going to grow itself. You got to water it. And if you're not watering it every day, it's going to die. And so that's been a huge part for us. And we've learned that from some of the best that we've been around here. Obviously guys like Coach Peterson and the details that it takes and the persistency and having the perspective to know that it's going to take a lot of time for these things to stick within our environment. And that's really what we've been focusing on and building our chemistry naturally coming out of last year for all of us. I mean, a lot of you guys still work on Zoom. There's a lot of people still working from home, and to be able to get out of that phase and get back around each other and the interaction we need to build our chemistry is really what we've been focusing on.
And just going off what you said about chemistry, knowing that a lot of guys are coming back, what does that do for the morale of the team?
It's always fun. It's fun for everybody, and obviously we've got to be very careful about the social distancing and all that, but the morale of the team to have their big brothers come back, guys, let's be honest. I mean, some of the players that are here right now are probably here because they've watched those guys play when they were in high school, when they were in junior high. Now they're standing right there on the side in their off season, or if they're done playing or whatever they're doing, that they're standing there watching now. When DeMarcus Lawrence is standing there watching, I promise you that D-line is going to want to make an impression. They're going to want to work a certain way. When Ced's standing there watching and the wide receiver group's out there competing against the DBs, that's going to give them a little extra as to they want to impress. They want to make their big brother proud. So it's always fun. And then to be able to see those guys and interact and catch up with them, that's what it's all about. For those guys, the former players that are now doing, whatever it is out in the real world, whether it is football or another business, for them to be able to continue to impact our current student athletes is what it's about.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, Coach, just you talked about, ex-players being around, pumping up the guys. What about ex-coaches hanging around pumping you guys up? I mean, if Chris Peterson's standing there, do you all of a sudden say, okay, all right, let's go. Let's take this to another level?
Without a doubt. Coach Cutter was out there a couple of weeks ago, and it's like, yes, that's the guy that recruited me and brought me to Boise State. And so there's a certain level within this family, whether it's coaches, players that are here every single day or not, whether they're here or not, we work every day to respect our tradition and to withhold the standard of which we've all been taught. And that's whether they're here or not here. Guys like Chris Peterson, there's a certain standard that we know that he would expect, that we work very diligently. We're not perfect. We're not going to meet it every day. That'd be unrealistic to say, but we make it a goal to do that, you know.
As far as your coordinators, do you prefer them in the box? Do you want Tim Plow on the sideline next to you? Have you worked that out? Like, what do you think is going to work best for you and this staff as far as where you want your coordinators to be on game day, Coach?
Yeah, that's a good question. And we're obviously starting to work through some of that stuff as we get into some of our scrimmages and the organization of game day operation. And really, it's for the operation of the offense or the defense. And the special teams coordinators typically on the field, and so that will be the case. But, you know, our offense coordinator will most likely be on the sideline, and we got to, you know, as we continue to work through it, I feel like on the defensive side of the ball, you know, it can go either way. So whatever's best for our staff is to have the best impact in game on the players and to get the outcome, you know, we obviously desire to have is what will decide that.
And finally, you know, you see some programs with quarterback competitions, you know, the fan base doesn't find out who the starter is until the first team runs out on Labor Day weekend. What would dictate that being the case of we don't know who the starting quarterback is until the first offensive series in Orlando? Is that a possibility?
Well, I know that's naturally it's the quarterback competition, so it's a natural question that everybody wants to hear and know about. But it would be unfair for me to answer something that I don't. If we knew when we were going to make this decision and who that was going to be, you know, in the time frame we have, it wouldn't be unfair for me for the guys right now to say that. This is going to go through spring. This is going to go into the summer, and our third cycle in our year before we hit the season is fall camp. So in the third cycle, once these guys have got an opportunity to learn the offense and get comfortable in it in this first cycle, the second cycle's in the summertime where they can start to polish. Now let's see who's operating the best in fall camp. And, you know, we're not really looking forward to that point yet. We're focused on right now so that we can be in a good position in fall camp. So I couldn't really tell you, hey, it's going to be when the horse runs out or the Bronco runs out and whoever's running out right behind him going out on the field after that. I couldn't tell you that. That's the honest God truth right there, you know.
Thanks, Coach.
Chris Vanini for the last one.
So I got a puppy crawling all over me here.
What's his name?
It's her. Her name is Ahsoka.
Ahsoka.
2 months old.
I'm nervous. I feel like I'm going to have to get a family dog here soon. I don't know if we're ready. I'm not ready for that. I know my kids are. But.
Yeah, well, we got a bunch here, so you can take one of mine. I missed the beginning, so you may have addressed this, but I was just curious. You know, it's been several months now. What has surprised you about being a head coach? Maybe something you didn't expect, or something that was different.
Well, I mean, having great mentors and having coaches that, you know, have been very instrumental in the growth within this profession for myself and my family. There are a lot of conversations about this is what it's going to be like. It's not going to be like what it was as a coordinator. Football time is going to be minimal. You get on the field, that's your football time. You get off the field, it's not like it was where you got the remote in your hand and you're in there dialing up defenses and doing this and that. It's different. There's a lot of different things that I'm competing with now. It's not about what pressure we're going to call on first down in the shot zone. You know, what are we going to do on third down in the red zone compared to what we're going to do out in the open field? It's not about that anymore. There's other competitions and battles and scenarios that we're strategizing for now that deal with logistics of operations, you know, within whether that be the team, the alumni, fundraising, all those fun things. That's what we get to compete in now. So a little bit of that stuff, you know, the intricacies of those things are obviously new to me, but it's fun because it involves people and a lot of times it involves people that we've known for a long time and that we get to interact with. So Chris, that part has actually been fun while still being able to do the football stuff.
Cool. That's all I got. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, thanks for joining us. If anybody needs the audio or the video files, please send me a note and I'll get that sent your way. Appreciate the time.
Recording stopped.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you guys. Be safe out there.
Thanks, Andy.